So I tried to act like an adult recently, which was already my first mistake. Every time I try to be responsible, the universe steps in like, buddy, let's calm down. Let's not pretend you're ready for this. But I woke up that morning feeling confident, dangerously confident, the kind of confidence where you think you can fix things without YouTube tutorials. That's the kind of confidence that ruins families. So my wife tells me, can you handle something simple today? And that should have been a warning. Anytime someone says simple, that means it's not simple. That means it is a trap. But I said yes, because I thought, look at me being an adult, handling responsibilities, paying bills, not calling my dad for help. I felt unstoppable. Like a man who's watched half a home improvement video and now thinks he can rebuild Rome. The task was easy, replace a light bulb, that's it. A light bulb, one job, but somehow I managed to make it feel like brain surgery. I'm standing on a chair that is definitely not rated for my weight, holding a light bulb like it's a bomb from Mission Impossible. I'm sweating, I'm confused, and I'm questioning my entire education. Why are there so many kinds of bulbs? Who decided we needed soft white, warm white, and mysterious glow of disappointment? Just give me the one that turns on. So I finally put the bulb in and it didn't work. Not even a flicker. I just stood there in the dark holding a receipt for something. I still don't understand. My wife walks in and goes, did you flip the switch? I said, obviously not, because that would have been too easy, and nothing in my life is easy. She flips the switch, it turns on, the room lights up, and so does her disappointment. But the worst part is, instead of saying, thank you, I try to defend myself. I said, well, I didn't want to turn it on too fast. You have to warm up a light bulb emotionally. She just stared at me like she married a man who needs adult supervision to be an adult. And that's when I realized something important. Being an adult isn't about knowing what you're doing. It's about pretending long enough that no one questions you. I've been doing it wrong my whole life. I've been honest. Honesty is dangerous. Adults don't know what they're doing. They just say things confidently while Googling the answers in private. So now, anytime someone asks me to fix something, I immediately call a real adult, like my dad, because somewhere out there, there's a group of men who are born knowing how to fix everything. I was not one of them. I'm still working on figuring out how to open the new milk carton without destroying it. In closing, I learned one thing. If you ever feel like you're finally becoming an adult, don't sit down. Rest, drink water. Because the moment you try to handle a simple task, life will remind you who you really are, a child disguised as a grown person, hoping no one notices you're still confused by light switches. I tried to act like an adult recently, and I should have known from the start that this was not going to end well, because any day I wake up and tell myself, today, I'm going to be responsible. That's already the kind of dangerous optimism the universe loves to punish. It's like the moment you think you finally have your life together, life immediately steps in and goes, oh really? Let's test that confidence. And I don't know why I keep falling for it. Every time I try to behave like a real, functioning grown-up, it turns into a live demonstration of how unprepared I truly am. But that morning, for some reason, I woke up with a confidence level that wasn't earned. The kind of confidence where you stretch once and suddenly believe you're the type of person who makes appointments on time. I felt like I was in a motivational commercial for myself. I'm brushing my teeth thinking, look at me, a man who has things under control. It was delusion at its finest. There's something about pretending to be an adult that tricks your brain into thinking you know everything, even though you've spent most of your life Googling how to boil an egg, but not today. No, today I was bold. I was so bold I even stood in front of the mirror like a politician preparing to address the nation. We will get things done, and for reasons unknown, I believed it. I walked into the kitchen with this powerful aura that said, I can handle anything. Meanwhile, the only thing I've handled consistently is losing my keys in the same house every single day. But I ignored reality because the adult fantasy was too strong. I wanted to experience that rare moment where I do something responsible and no one has to fix it after me. And here's the funny part. Anytime I convince myself I'm ready for adult responsibilities, I start acting like someone who has absolutely no business being in charge of anything. I walk around opening drawers like I'm inspecting my own home for the first time. I take deep breaths for no reason at all, like adults do in movies. I even stood there with my hands on my hips, which is the official sign of someone pretending they know what they're doing. That pose alone should tell you I was way out of my depth. There's a special kind of chaos that appears when someone who doesn't understand adulthood tries to participate in it. And there I was, fully participating. But the moment I stepped out of my room with that fake adult confidence, the universe gave me this subtle, invisible nudge that felt like it was whispering, let's see how long you last. And trust me, the universe did not have to wait long. Because the thing about pretending to be an adult is that reality always comes back fast. And when it comes back, it hits you with the kind of reminder that makes you question every decision that led you to this exact moment. And all I could think was, why do I keep trying to grow up when growing up is clearly not interested in me? The moment my wife told me she had something simple for me to do, I should have immediately walked out of the room. Because anytime someone uses the word simple, especially when talking to me, it means I'm about to discover a new weakness I didn't even know I had. She said it so casually too, like she was handing me a piece of gum, not responsibility. And the way she looked at me, you could tell she had just enough hope to believe I might actually pull it off, but also just enough doubt to keep her phone nearby in case she needed to call a real adult. It was that dangerous middle area where expectations are high, but the track record is low. And I fell for it. I said, sure, I can handle it, with this fake confidence that even I didn't believe. But I said it anyway because this was my chance to prove mostly to myself that I was capable of doing at least one thing without supervision. She told me it was something extremely easy: replace a light bulb. Now, immediately, my brain panicked because replacing a light bulb sounds simple for people who have their life together. For me, it felt like I had been chosen for a mission that required training I absolutely did not have. And I don't know why, but whenever I'm given a small task, I instantly turn it into the Olympics. My heart starts beating fast, my palms get sweaty, and suddenly I'm overthinking everything like I'm about to deactivate a bomb wired with emotional consequences. I try to act calm though, because the worst thing you can do when someone gives you a simple job is look overwhelmed. So I nodded slowly, like I had been mentally preparing for this moment my entire life. I even said no problem, which was the first lie of the day. Before I even touched the light bulb, the pressure was already getting to me. I could feel the weight of all the failed tasks of my past sitting on my shoulders like tiny ghosts whispering, remember when you tried to assemble that bookshelf, don't do this. But this time, I wanted to be different. I wanted to rise to the occasion. I wanted to walk into the room with the broken bulb and walk out with the kind of victory adults brag about at dinner. It wasn't just about fixing something. It was about proving that maybe, just maybe, I could be trusted with tasks that didn't involve Wi-Fi passwords. As I walked toward the room, I could feel my wife's eyes follow me, not with confidence, but with the same expression people have when they watch a toddler carry a glass of water. Nobody wants to say anything, but everyone knows this could end badly. I kept trying to hype myself up like some motivational speaker trapped inside the body of a confused man. I even told myself, you've got this. People do this every day. You can be one of those people, but deep down, I knew the truth. Anytime there's a simple task in my life, it becomes a full-blown event. And the moment I reached for that light bulb, I could already tell this was going to be the kind of story that reminds everyone why giving me responsibilities is a risky investment. I finally stood in front of the chair, the same wobbly, unreliable chair every family owns, the one that looks fine until the moment your life depends on it. I could feel it judging me before I even stepped on it. I climbed up slowly, like I was boarding a plane I didn't trust, and held that light bulb the way people in movies hold sacred artifacts that open portals if you twist them wrong. It's ridiculous how something so small can hold so much power over a man who doesn't understand basic tools. I kept telling myself, it's just a light bulb. People do this. Children do this. There are toddlers who could probably do this blindfolded, but I knew the truth. I was about 3 seconds away from inventing a new way to injure myself. The ceiling looked higher than it ever looked in my entire life. I don't know what happens when you climb a chair, but everything suddenly becomes intimidating. I started questioning physics. I started questioning the ceiling. I even questioned the chair, whispering, just give me 2 minutes, please don't ruin my marriage today. As I reached up, my arms started shaking like I had been asked to hold the weight of the moon. Why did it suddenly feel like the bulb weighed 40 pounds? My brain began panicking about things that made absolutely no sense. What if the bulb shocks me? What if it explodes? What if the chair collapses and I end up as a story she tells her friends? I twisted the old bulb off and immediately realized I had no idea where to put it. No plan, no strategy. Just a man on a chair holding a hot glass ball with nowhere to go. I placed it in my pocket for half a second before realizing I was basically creating a homemade grenade. I panicked, took it out, stared at it like it betrayed me, then gently placed it on the floor, like it was a sleeping baby. When I reached up to install the new bulb, suddenly the socket looked different, like it had changed its identity out of pure disrespect. I wasn't even sure if I was screwing it in the right direction. My hand kept slipping, and the bulb made that tiny squeaking noise, the kind that says, you're absolutely doing this wrong. I started sweating so much you'd think I was attempting the world's most stressful puzzle, and the entire time the thought kept echoing in my head, how is this my life? How am I losing a battle to an object that doesn't even require batteries? I adjusted the bulb again, hoping I would magically transform into a handyman by the third twist, but nothing felt secure, nothing felt right. I just kept turning it gently, like I was apologizing to it the whole time. And in that moment, balanced on a shaking chair, holding a bulb that refused to cooperate, I realized the darkest truth of adulthood. You don't fail at the big things, you fail at the light bulbs, the simple things, the things everyone else does without thinking, and somehow those are the moments that expose you the most. When I finally stepped back to admire my work, the bulb didn't turn on, not even a polite flicker, and that was the moment I realized adulthood is mostly standing in the dark, questioning every decision that got you here. I just stared at that ceiling like it personally betrayed me, like it waited for me to get confident before whispering, watch this. It's humiliating when the one thing you were sure you could handle absolutely refuses to cooperate, because a light bulb not turning on doesn't just feel like a small failure, it feels like the universe filing an official report on your competency. I tapped the switch a few times, as if maybe the electricity needed moral encouragement. Nothing. I wiggled the bulb like a doctor checking a patient's pulse, still nothing. And then comes the moment every adult dreads, the quiet pause where you have to decide whether you're willing to lie about what happened or accept responsibility. I stood there rehearsing excuses in my head. Maybe the house is haunted, maybe the entire electrical grid shut down for just my room out of pure disrespect. Anything was better than admitting I had no idea what I was doing. My wife walked in just as I was pretending to troubleshoot, which honestly should have won me an award for acting because I leaned in and squinted at the switch like a detective discovering clues. She asked, "Did you flip the switch?" And I froze because that question felt like a trap, like one of those riddles where there is no correct answer and every choice makes you look guilty. If I said yes, then I broke something. If I said no, then I failed at the easiest part. So I did what any real adult would do. I lied in the most confusing way possible. I said, well, not technically, which didn't even make sense, but I said it confidently, hoping she'd be impressed by my vague honesty. She reached over, flipped the switch, and the light turned on so fast and so bright, it felt like the room was celebrating her and mocking me at the same time. I stood there blinking like I had just emerged from a cave. She looked at me with that expression only spouses have, the one where they love you, but also deeply regret letting you participate in anything. I tried to recover my dignity by explaining I didn't want to shock the system. You have to let the bulb adjust. She didn't even respond. She just walked out of the room in quiet disbelief, and there's nothing more powerful than silent disappointment. It lingers, it haunts you. It wraps around you like a blanket knitted from all your past failures. And I just stood there alone in a brightly lit room I technically didn't fix, feeling like a man who had asked for one simple win and ended up starring in a documentary about incompetence. Sometimes all it takes is one light switch to expose exactly how unqualified you are to handle even the smallest responsibilities, and that kind of truth hits harder than any life lesson. After that whole light bulb incident, I did what every responsible adult does when faced with overwhelming proof that they have no idea how to function in the real world. I immediately tried to justify my behavior with confidence I absolutely did not earn. There's something about messing up a simple task that forces you to start saying sentences you would never say under normal circumstances, like you're trying to rewrite history in real time. I started pacing around the room, nodding to myself, pretending like everything made perfect sense, even though I had just been defeated by a switch that toddlers flip every day without emotional damage. I told myself I only struggled because adults are supposed to struggle. It's part of the process. Great men fail before they succeed, right? I tried to convince myself that messing up a light bulb was basically the same as Thomas Edison failing 10,000 times. The only difference is he recorded his failures, and I try to deny mine before they're even finished happening. But when you're caught in the middle of a domestic disaster you created, you start scrambling for ways to make yourself look less incompetent. And I began leaning on the most classic adult coping mechanism, fake technical explanations. I started saying things like, sometimes the wiring gets confused, as if the wires in my house were sentient and simply needed time to emotionally process the new bulb. At one point, I even said, the voltage is adjusting, which is something I heard once in a movie but absolutely did not understand. I don't know what voltage is. I don't know where it lives. I don't know what it does. For all I know, voltage could be a type of sandwich, But in that moment, I said it with the confidence of an electrician who teaches night classes. That's the power of panic. You start sounding smarter and dumber at the exact same time. And the more I tried to sound knowledgeable, the more obvious it became that nothing I said made sense, but that didn't stop me. No, I doubled down. Because adults don't admit defeat immediately, they drag it out like a dramatic movie scene, hoping someone will eventually believe the nonsense they're saying. I kept walking around the room, touching things like I was diagnosing the energy of the space, light switch, wall, bulb, back to the wall, just doing a full investigation that served absolutely no purpose. But here's the hook. The more you pretend to understand a problem, the more the universe gives you opportunities to embarrass yourself. I even tried tapping the bulb lightly, like maybe it just needed some encouragement, or maybe it was shy. As if a light bulb has social anxiety and I needed to guide it through its fears. And the whole time I knew what I was doing, stalling. Because stalling is an adult's best friend. It gives you precious seconds to form better excuses, or at least shorter ones. But no matter how much I tried to act like the situation was complex and multi-layered, I couldn't escape the obvious truth. I had failed at a task that required almost no skills at all, and now I was trying to intellectualize that failure like it was part of some scientific research project. That's adulthood. Not doing things correctly, but explaining them confidently enough that people start doubting reality instead of doubting you. After everything that happened, I realized the safest thing, the only thing, honestly, was to call an actual adult, which in my world is my dad, because dads operate on this magical level of confidence where they can fix anything with the same expression they use when reading a cereal box. There's a special kind of comfort that comes from calling your dad for help, even when you're grown, paying bills and pretending to understand insurance. The moment he answered, he already knew something was wrong, not because I said anything, but because I only call him for two reasons, holidays and emergencies, and this clearly wasn't a holiday. I tried to sound casual, like this was just a normal conversation between two adults who both know what they're doing, but he cut me off and asked, "Okay, what did you break?" And that's when you know you've established a reputation. I told him it was the light bulb situation, and he made this sound half confusion, half embarrassment that said, I should have taught him more when he was young. He didn't even ask what kind of bulb it was. He just sighed, which is the universal dad language for this should not be happening to you at your age. He started guiding me through the process with the patience of a kindergarten teacher trying to explain shapes. He asked, "Did you tighten it?" And I said, "Yes," even though I had no idea. Then he asked, "Did you turn the switch on?" And I said, "Technically," because apparently that's my favorite new word when I'm failing at life. Then he asked if I checked the breaker, and I panicked because I didn't even know I had a breaker. Where is that located? Do people actually touch those things on purpose? He starts explaining it while I walk around the house pretending I'm familiar with electrical systems touching walls, like I'm a psychic trying to feel the energy. And here's the hook. No matter how old you are, your dad will always talk to you like you're moments away from sticking a fork into an outlet. It's a tone that says, don't move, don't touch anything. I'm trying to prevent the news from getting involved. Then he finally says he's on his way over, and that's when the humiliation hits hard. Because nothing says you have failed at adulthood like a grown man needing his father to fix a bulb. He technically already fixed himself. When he arrived, he didn't even greet me with a hello. He walked straight to the room and flipped the switch with the kind of confidence that turned the light on before his finger even touched it. The room lit up like it was applauding him. He didn't say a word. He just gave me that classic dad look that communicates a full paragraph of disappointment. And I stood there watching him, realizing the real truth of adulthood. It's not about being capable, it's about knowing who to call when you inevitably prove that you're not. And if you mess up just right, your dad will show up, fix everything in 6 seconds, and still make you feel like you just tried to solve a math problem using interpretive dance. So after all that, I realized that acting like an adult isn't about knowing what you're doing. It's about convincing everyone, including yourself, that you have a plan, while secretly Googling how to do the simplest things. The light bulb is on now. But somehow I feel like I failed a life test I didn't even know I was taking. And honestly, that's probably the best part about adulthood. No one knows what they're doing, but we all pretend anyway. And sometimes, just sometimes, the universe lets you survive long enough to tell the story